Hi, this is Kate and welcome to the Ordinary Earth Song. I have a new microphone. Yay! I've just finished work and just to explain, I only do readings when I feel called to do the readings. So they just don't work otherwise. Or they come out as for me. So I am going to do really reading. It's going to be a follow-up to the 0 point consciousness video that I did previously. The reason I'm doing that is because I have this kind of image and it's an expansion of what I discussed. So I need to do it, guys. I'm sorry. So this is where we left off. We had 0 point consciousness and oh my goodness. This being the consciousness and sort of the lenses that we see through, and the shadow means that we only see from that point of view. So, but what's been coming through as an expansion of that is that it's not concentric circles so much as a spiral. I'll explain that in a minute, and as to why that's important. I've got some coloured pens here. So we got 0 point consciousness. That's the consciousness of all things. I don't know if anyone can actually grasp that concept. The consciousness of all things. It's everything. It's this, it's me. I'm conscious. I'm observing the world and therefore creating what I'm seeing and interacting with. I don't think this is a new concept. It kind of fits in with the whole kind of having a avatar, I guess. But the spiral is something that's been coming through, and then there's this other element which I've been we'll be encouraged to try and explain is actually we aren't constantly looking out. We are always reflecting back in as well. So we're kind of bouncing around what we see and what is seen about us. And it's relevant because it creates not only our reality but the reality everybody else witnesses and lives in. I will try to explain this. This just so you know, this comes through as a kind of just knowing, an understanding of, or I don't know if you call it a download or if it's just a fundamental understanding of the way things work. That's the way it feels. And I've been meditating with it, and it's incredible. So I just wanted to, I feel the need to share it with people. So whoever watches this, I hope this makes sense. And if you do have questions, please do post them. I mean, you could be watching this thinking, well, she's talking complete and utter bollocks, which is fine. Because everyone has got to understand the existence of all things in your own way, right? Me explaining the way I'm seeing something, probably, well, in the best way I probably can, or probably in a way that may not resonate, or it may just come out garbled. I don't know, it could be rubbish. But it's really hard to put into words a feeling or an understanding of something so deep and fundamentally insular, but also it's all things. I'm going to stop rambling, which I'm actually being encouraged to do right now. Okay, anyway, so we're born. We'll start with birth. Point consciousness, we're born. And as we grow as a baby, we learn, we develop, we change. We start forming kind of this spiral of self. and the spiral grows. And every time we change or learn something new, it pushes outwards. It pushes the lens. We start creating the lens that we see the world through. And every time we learn something new, the lens gets pushed out, which is why it's not a concentric circle. The pushing out of the lens, the change of the lens, the morphing of the distortions that we see, the way we learn, everything that we learn about ourselves pushes out the lens, and therefore it creates this spiral. And because it's circular, I'm being encouraged to say it's circular, it spirals because it keeps growing, it keeps being pushed out, it keeps changing. So this is observation. This is observation. Right, so at this point we've only reached here in our ability to witness and observe. At this point we're here. At this point we're here, and we've just been born. We're learning to talk, we're learning to see the world around us and understand what things mean, that we've got hands and these things aren't just floppy appendages, we can actually do stuff with them. We grow as children, we start learning to read, write, draw, explore, and we keep growing, we keep developing, and we keep pushing the lens out. The lens gets pushed out. The lens gets pushed out until, and this is something that happens in a lot of people, we reach a point where we stop looking for the changes. We stop thinking we can learn anything new, and then the spiral becomes tighter. And because it becomes tighter, we start going into this realm of wanting to keep things as similar as possible to the way we want to perceive them. It's still a spiral because there are still things we are learning. There are still things that come along, and something might happen that pushes us back out again, and it spirals. And then we carry on, we keep growing, we keep going. And then we go, oh, actually, I want to go back to the way I was before. And we attempt to go back, but we can't. We because we've already experienced this spiraling out, we keep hitting this new spiral. And then we find a comfort zone. And this is where we start integrating something that we've learned, something new that we've learned. We start accepting it as part of who we are, and we carry on down that path. We're spiraling out still, but it's tighter. So we're cycling. It's almost like cycling because the spiral is so tight to a previous experience of what we know about ourselves. And as we spiral, we tightly hang on to something that we feel safe with. We're safe with this perception. We're safe with this ability, this lens, very comfortable lens that we're in now. And something else comes along and it pushes us out, and we spiral out of control again. And again, we try to push back in, and we realise that whilst this was a good lens, actually maybe life isn't going to let us do that anymore, and we have to push back out again. And we're still spiraling. We're spiraling around this whole time, but we're looking for the cycles, we're looking for the lenses that we are most comfortable with, always looking for what is most comfortable. The reason we're doing that is because we reach a point in our lives normally where we go, do you know what? This is everything I know about me. This is everything I know about the world. And this is the level I'm comfortable at. This is where I want to stay. This is me. And that is what we reflect back to the consciousness. And this is important because the consciousness is what is creating you at all points in this spiral of life. It is giving you everything that you are reflecting back at every single point. It's giving it back to you. It's creating you at every point. It's creating what you witness about yourself, what lens you're looking through. It creates you. This is who you are when you're 5. and it bounces back, and it keeps on creating who you are when you're 5. You're still learning, so when you reach 6, you've learned a lot more than you knew when you were 5, so it bounces that back and you become who you are. At 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and so on, and you're spiraling. The whole time you're spiraling, you are looking through these lenses, seeing you as who you want to be, as who you are at that point, as all the experiences you've had in the past, all the lenses that you're looking through, all the shadow points that you are that is hiding aspects of yourself that are still there but are no longer being witnessed. So this becomes the primary part of you. This is the shadow. Connects back to who you are, the conscious awareness of self. And it's this is you that is being reflected back. That is who's being created. Always bouncing back. It's always coming back in. And you've got the shadow. It's hiding this now. It's hiding that element of the self. Because maybe whatever happened here was shameful or felt shameful, and then you want to hide it. So then what you do, or what I do, or what anybody else does, is go, right, this is me. This is me, and that's who that's connected to. That point there. This becomes a distant memory. Someone your shadow is hiding away. Someone your shadow is ashamed of, or is protecting. It could be anything, really. So this is some part of yourself. These are lenses that you don't any longer want to associate as you. So you associate from this point onwards. And that's what's reflected back. This is still 0 point consciousness. And what happens with spiritual awakening is something massive comes along. And it might take you all the way back to a previous time, and it might take you to this point. It might take you to this shadow point. You might be like, oh my God, why am I back here? Why is this happening? I mean, you reach rock bottom, and then you have a choice. This is generally how people come about their spiritual awakening. It comes through via a big slap to the face. She says punching, and it makes you revert or go back to a time or something that highlights this, makes it very difficult to function as a human being, challenges everything you believe, everything you know about yourself. And then when you get to that point, you're just like, I've got a choice. I can either stay here and then start again, or I can look for something new. And if you decide to look for something new, you go, right, I'm going to go back. I'm looking for something new, actually. So all the things that I previously knew or thought I knew about myself, I'm going to get out of that, and I'm going to find a new path. And the path might be wobbly. It might be wobbly. You're going to encounter all sorts of different things. But whilst you're doing that, you're wobbling, but you're learning, you're seeking, you're finding, you're seeking, you're finding, and then you're going to get smoother and smoother. And the lens becomes smoother, and you become more able to function as your point consciousness. Because you created new lenses, you've traversed beyond what you once held as true for you, and you created the means to be different, to be new, to learn, to challenge yourself, and it becomes smoother and you integrate, and the more you integrate, the clearer the lenses become, and as the lenses become clearer, you become clearer, and then as you become clearer, you reflect back, you connect more, you've created cracks in the lens, those are cracks in the lens, which allows you to see something of yourself that you may not have allowed yourself to see whilst you were in the previous cycle, because this previous cycle, this is human. Let's give that a different colour. This is human. This is your human cycle. This is all your human learning, all the how to survive as a human being. And as you're learning how to survive as a human being, you are traversing through life. You're trying to be who you are, and then you realise one day that that's a crock of shit. There's something different, and you hit rock bottom because something comes along and it's just like, oh my god, and then you start reaching outwards, and as you reach out, you go for a new understanding of self, and you realise and you start to see there is something different. There's a different possibility for you. There's newness in life. It's not all about human. It's not all about the programming that you've received in your life. It's not all about all the things that you think are true about you or other people. There's a greater understanding. And as you realise this, as you come to this greater understanding of you, you're able to tap in successfully more and more to your 0 point consciousness, or the 0 point consciousness, because it's not your 0 point consciousness, it's everyone's 0 point consciousness. You're the personality. You're the person seeing through the lenses. You're the person having these experiences. These are experiences. And every experience, every lens you look through is reflecting back. Every point is reflecting back. You're looking out, you're reaching points. These are all the points you're reaching. And every point reflects back. To 0 point consciousness. So you're constantly looking out, realising who you are at that point, bouncing back. And then because you've bounced back, constantly you're recreating every single time. Because you're telling the conscious, the 0 point consciousness, who you are at every point. And as you tell the 0 point consciousness who you are at every point, that is who it creates. That is what it creates. The fact that you have to interact with other people that are going through the same thing means that life is unpredictable. You cannot ascertain exactly what's going to happen next because other people are involved. And you don't know what twats there are out there that are going to do whatever they're going to do to you. I'm being told off. Sorry. Okay, sorry. So my reaction there to the T word that I just used was that I'm very aware that there are certain things that happen in life that are completely out of our control, and other people are the cause. Pretty much all the time when those things happen, because if we could control absolutely everything, then we would always choose to never have a bad experience. We have bad experiences to help us push out the lens. The pushing out of the lens tends to happen either via a challenging situation that pushes us out of our comfort zone, out of the spiral, or it's a learning that we've chosen to undertake. And if we choose to undertake a learning, we develop, we change, we evolve. In situations where we have been pushed out of our comfort zone so far, we've hit rock bottom, and we decide to go through a new path and discover something different and new, and we end up on this journey of discovery, at that point we become the seeker. And the seeker is someone that will learn voluntarily all sorts of different things to start figuring out who they are. Now, if anyone is like myself, I have hit rock bottom 3 or 4 times, I guess. And every time I kept trying to live in a situation where I had my comfort. I knew who I was, I knew how to function. And every time I hit rock bottom, I'd come out of it and I'd be like, oh, it was awful. It was really horrible. Shadows formed. And then I had the opportunity, and I did reach out and start learning, and then this just became a normal loop for me. I just looped back around. I just looped, and I might have spiraled back down a little bit, and then I got kicked back out again. And so that's something else that can happen. But the whole time any of this was happening, I was looking at the consciousness, the 0 point consciousness that makes me, that makes everything and everybody, is constantly making what I perceive about me to be true. It's constantly doing that. So when I've got the shadow and all I'm reflecting back is certain elements of me, it means it's not allowing other elements of me, open, more free, more childlike elements of me, to be part of my makeup. It's only allowing certain elements of who I think I am at that point to be who I am, because that is what I've asked it to do. Sorry, I'm stopping because I don't know. Is there... there'll probably be a third part to this. Because this isn't I mean, there are elements of this which make perfect sense. I think there are elements of this which are... So this is the problem with explaining something to somebody else. That is... You've got the fundamental understanding of it, the knowing of it, but then when you put it into words, it's like, if you label a tree, it becomes nothing but a tree. If you don't label a tree, does it give it more potential to be something else? You know, it's that kind of thing. It's you start putting language to something like this, start trying to explain something like that, you're almost constraining it to being just that one thing. And this is bigger than that. This is something where your own understanding of it, your own feeling for it, is more important than the words you're hearing. Your own ability to connect with an element of truth within you, the 0 point consciousness, could be something that allows you to open up the possibility that there is something inside that zips around and creates you every minute, and that you have control over when you haven't ever felt like there was control before. That can be challenging, because I'm still struggling with the concept. I'm not struggling with the concept because the concept sounds really bloody good to me. But how the hell do you control it? How is it through affirmations? Is it by being super positive all the time? I just don't think that's realistic. I think I'd drive myself mad. I know some people can do it. But if I'm being really truthful with myself, there is more to do with this than I'm currently capable of doing, because I don't fully I'm not fully aligned with, I guess, the whole how to do anything with it. But the possibility of this is that you should be able to tell yourself and the 0 point consciousness, A, you want to change, B, what you want to change, and C, allow that change to happen, because it will. I think it depends on what lenses you're looking through, what's holding you back, what doubts you have, where those doubts came from. Think about what you need to let go of. Think about why you need to be right about something. I know that sounds weird, but if you feel like you need to be right all the time about something very specific, that's holding you back potentially. Because it's not allowing the potential for something else to come through. You know, you get those monks who kind of meditate and their lives are their spirituality. I mean, what an absolutely brilliant way to live. You've got nothing else other than to think about your spirituality and your connection to source or the consciousness, and how you can work with that, and how you can help other people work with that. What a brilliant thing to do with your life. But if everybody did that, I'm afraid to say the world wouldn't be very functionable. Is that a word? Functionable? I was going to Google it then, I won't, don't worry. It wouldn't function very well. People need to be practical, right? You need to have that daily grind, I suppose. That daily purpose in life. The point of saying that was what exactly? Why did I bring that up? Any clues? Why did I bring that up? Daily life, everyday life. Everyday life has its practicalities. Oh, okay. So I'm being asked to write this down. Everyday life has its practicalities. With these practicalities, we label, we judge worthiness of actions, the worthiness of what we're doing. A bit closer. Label, judge. Why are we doing what we're doing? What drives us to do these everyday tasks? We've judged them as necessary. They're necessary. They're required. My handwriting, sorry. So when we are thinking about our everyday actions and practicalities, and we've labelled them as necessary and required, when we start thinking about our spirituality, when we live within this spiritual, we fall into the trap of labelling. When we start labelling this, we confine it to this. So that's another layer. It's almost like I just saw the image of, if you can imagine a tube, and if you cut like a Brighton rock, for example, you cut it in half and you end up with words, a word in the middle, let's say Brighton or something. I just got an image of this being like that. It's being cut in half and it's got all these things inside it which are telling you how the world should be perceived. We've labelled it, we've judged things, we've identified what's necessary and what is required in everyday life. And that tube, the whole entire tube, is this spiral. It's making up this spiral. And if you cut this spiral in half, you'll see those words in the middle. And as we transition out, we hit rock bottom and those words change. Those words that made up the tube. It's not a tube. It's not a real tube, honestly. But it's if we were going to see this as a metaphor, I suppose, if there was a tube of experience, then that tube would be made up of all the things we've labelled in our lives at that point. And as they go around, they change. As we learn the tube and the words, then in the beginning it would be colours and shapes, and then toys, and then letters, and then numbers, and then words. And it would grow and it would develop and blah blah. And we'd start labelling. And as we label, the labels, the judgments we make, the perceptions we have, they all fill up this tube, this tube of experience. Cut this through at each different point, and it says something slightly different because we've added to it and we've taken some things away. So when we reach this point of slingshotting out of all of that from some experience that takes us away from it, all of a sudden elements of that tube empty, and the perceptions we thought were embedded in that tube become questionable. We start doubting the core, because those labels, those judgments, those perceptions make up the core of our own personal beliefs, and that is what we're taking with us on this experience spiral. So when we slingshot out, we create space in that tube by going, I don't believe that anymore, or I need something new, I need to push some of these things out. And then as you create space, you're looking for new things to fill it up. If you get to that point where you start labelling again and start judging again, you carry on. You will always fill that tube up. You will always, the core, wherever you are in your experience spiral, will always have an element of judgment, labelling, perception. And what monks do is they empty the tube. When we live in everyday life, we can't bloody empty the tube because we're living in everyday life. We've got practicalities to think about. And practicalities mean labels, mean judgments. So when we're doing this journey and we're not a monk and not able to completely disconnect ourselves from everyday life, what we end up with is a bit of a discombobulation, which is a fantastic word, of competing focus. Because on one side we want to empty the tube, and on the other side we're like, I can't empty the tube, I have things to do today. I have people to see, I have decisions to make, I have a job, I've got children to look after. How do we empty the tube whilst also being as practical as we possibly can to survive? We can't all become writers, we can't all become YouTube readers or influencers. We can't all be, yoga teachers or spiritual shop owners. Some of us are going to be people that work in an office or work in a shop, or it's a doctor or a bin man or a grocer. There's everyday people needing to find a way to not only realise they are 0 point consciousness, but that can be in everyday life a human being with love, with hopes, with dreams, and that can influence the path that 0 point consciousness will allow them to take, or will help them take, will create for them. 0 point consciousness is creating us every minute of the day as this thing that zips around and basically creates who we are at all times. How do we, as just general everyday people, get to the point where we can influence that and be all we can be? 0 point consciousness. That's the question. I have a question for 0 point consciousness. How do we achieve that? How do we take the core of that tube of experience, that spiral of experience? How do we take that and exist in a reflective, bounce back kind of way, where everything about us, we're looking through a lens, and we've got the world all around us, and we've got Venn diagrams of other people's perceptions all around us. How do we do that? I shall meditate on this, and I shall come back to you if I get an answer. Otherwise, the next one will be a reading. That's it from me. It's nearly 40 minutes. Wow, that actually, I have to admit, this core thing literally came through whilst I was talking, so that's kind of cool. So I'm hoping I do get some form of guidance around how do we do that when we're everyday people living everyday lives. Can we function in a world of practicalities when what we really want to do is connect to a spiritual self that requires emptiness? Do we actually require an empty core? If we're looking through an empty core, that's the lens we're looking through, right? This is the lens we're looking through, because if you think about it, that's the core. Oh my goodness. Okay. So this is the core. This is the cross section here that we've just taken. This is the lens we're looking through right now. And that's what's bouncing back. So that's what's bouncing back. And here we've got labels, we've got judgments, we've got perceptions, we've got practicalities. And these are all the things we believe about ourselves. It's bouncing back, and it's creating, it's bouncing back, 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 it's creating, it's moving, it's changing, it's spiralling outwards. Constantly spiralling outwards. Because it's always perceiving, it's always looking at the core, it's always looking at giving you what you believe at all times. and then it changes because of time. You've got time bouncing back through time. Okay, this needs more thought, guys. This needs more meditating, and it needs more. It feels like something's coming through right now, but I feel like I need to integrate that, because otherwise I'm going to sit here and ramble for a couple of hours, and I don't think you want to see that personally. Anyway, I hope this made some sense, and if you have any kind of queries or whatever, just let me know what you think, and yeah, if not, then fantastic. I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye.